seen TV shows like this?
Wednesday at 9, The Silencer of the Lambs.
Or this?
Head spins. Very good.
Because this isn't TV, it's hell.
Our parents are trapped in television.
We're cartoons. And they're having a devil of a time getting out.
That'll save her.
Stay tuned.
Where have you been?
Rated PG. Starts Friday, August 14th at a theater near you.
Hey, folks, welcome back. It is Unfinished Business Deep Dive. And that means we're going to take a look at a film from the recent past or past and take a deeper look at it, the behind the scenes, little known trivia, our review of it. And I am Jeff Galashaw, Unfinished B2, your host. And with me, as always, is Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Start me up. You got to start me up.
Yes, and this week or this episode, we are taking a look at Stay Tuned from 1992, directed by Peter Hyams and starring John Ritter, Pam Dawber, and yes, that's right, Jeffrey Jones. This is a film about a couple who are on the outs, and the father is a TV addict of sorts and in a midlife crisis. After an argument, the wife smashes a television, and thus comes this one-in-a-lifetime deal with a satellite dish and huge television for a free trial offer. And it's actually a demon from hell who is a programmer. As we notice when all the shows are kind of either horror or evil influenced, and eventually he gets sucked into the television, him and his wife, and they have to make it 24 hours through all these various television shows, where after they successfully go through it, there's a portal to another show. This is meant to entertain the devil. And as a deal with heaven, if they make it through 24 hours, they get redemption. I'm getting too much into story here. The film also has Eugene Levy and Don Calfa in the cast, and cameos by Don Pardo, Captain Lou Albano, and for those of you with the good eye, Laura Harris from The Faculty plays a bit role in this film. Andre, this is your pick. Why did you pick this film for a deep dive?
So Stay Tuned was one of those movies I grew up with as a kid because I think the summer it hit HBO, again, like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Toy Soldiers, it was on all the time. And for the first time that I saw it, I just had fun with this movie. I just loved the inventiveness of seeing John Ritter and Mrs. Mark Harmon going through different parodies of TV shows and all the, the commercials that were like knocking off popular movies and TV shows of that time, whether it was like Wayne's World or Silence of the Lambs, Candid Camera, but doing it in like the devilish evil way of, what hell would be like if they had its own cable channel. So I always used to have fun with that. And of course, the animated sequence by Chuck Jones when they take the characters and they become cartoon mice obviously was the thing that all the critics loved, was that sequence. They didn't seem to like the rest of the movie, which is unfortunately a shame because it became a cult classic over the years and wasn't well received at the time of release. But it was always a movie that I really enjoyed back then. And of course, you look at it as an adult, it's got its cheesiness and its flaws, but I still like it. And one thing I didn't know for a long time was just Peter Hyams as a director, and we've reviewed a lot of his work. Like, just to realize this guy did Running Scared, he did Presidio, he did End of Days. Like, the man has a journeyman career, and he did one of these movies that I used to love as a kid. It just really stands out, and I could see the style, and even like a lot of the people he worked with on the Monster Squad, he brought into this behind the scenes, including Bruce Brutton, who did the music. So you got all these elements in play that make it kind of a fun picture still to this day. And the writers, Jim Genowine and Tom Parker, this is one of the first scripts they ever sold in Hollywood. They actually were inspired by combining The Evil Dead with Monty Python. They were just for whatever reason, they thought this weird combination would make for, I guess you got to think in the 90s and the late 80s with the advent of cable TV, people were staying home more and watching TV more and just not really getting out as much because all these movies that were on all the time, all these TV shows that they could just watch 24 hours a day. So we were all kind of like stuck as couch potatoes, especially during COVID. And, so they wrote the script over 9 months. They worked with another writer, Richard Siegel, who helped them craft the story. And then the company Morgan Creek bought the script for $750,000, which was a big record at that time, I guess next to whatever money Shane Black was getting back in the day. And they originally were considered this movie for Dan Aykroyd, who I guess either turned it down or was too expensive. And then at one point they thought about Richard Dreyfuss and Tracy Ullman as the leads to play the Nables. And they were not hired because their salaries would have been too high for the budget. Because you got to remember, Mr. Dreyfuss, before he got semi-canceled recently, he was like the Disney darling, doing all the hits for Touchstone, like Stakeout and, Stand By Me was Columbia. But, he was doing all these banger movies for Disney back in the day. Tracy Ullman had her TV show, and she was red hot, but they were just too expensive. So we go with the legendary John Ritter, coming off the Problem Child movies. And again, Mrs. Mark Harmon, Pam Dauber, best known for Mork and Mindy, who actually is fun and very attractive in this. And they were actually having Tim Burton in talks to direct this movie because they loved his style with Beetlejuice. But Warner said, oh, no, you got to do Batman Returns. We don't want you doing this. And so when Peter Hyams came on board, Peter actually lobbied for the job. He loved the idea and he wanted to jump at it. So I guess he was available and they said, okay, go ahead, take a crack at it. And just the entire inventiveness of it. It's just... it's a pretty wild movie for the most part, going from this show to that show. And they even got so crazy with the concept. They actually, for the Dwayne's Underworld scene, they offered Mike Myers and Dana Carvey to play themselves parrying Wayne's World, which would have been weird given that they were still on Saturday Night Live at that time. But because they were doing the movie Wayne's World at the same time, they said, we're doing our own shit. And, there's other trivia we'll get into at some point, but I still enjoy it to this day. I just love the inventiveness of it, the humor, even some comedy that kind of went over my head as a kid that I now get actually makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Well, I remember when this came out. I remember the commercials. I remember even the advertising, which they heavily use the Three's Company. Yeah. Where the women obviously do not look close to being Suzanne Summers or Joyce DeWitt. In fact, the blonde is even bustier than Suzanne Summers. And in the film, they never show the close-up. But in the commercials, I remember them showing the close-ups of them. Look, I'm a lifelong John Ritter fan, so I was the audience for this movie. I didn't see it in theaters, but when it came out on home video, I loved this film and watched it. And I mean, it makes sense since Tim Burton was in talks to direct, you would have Jeffrey Jones in it, as that was one of his regular players.
Totally carryover.
Yeah, and Eugene Levy is an inspired choice. I like that, the intern takes over at the end, the black intern.
Yes, that's Eric King from Dexter, who played Dokes. And
the best guy on the show.
But you see, the weird thing with him is I'd like to know how he ended up there to begin with. I like that they're like, oh, I was a USC film student. Like, what actually... how'd you die and become here?
And to be an intern. I remember as a kid thinking it was cool that the remote coming out of the sleeve.
The remote was cool.
What was her name? Heather
Tom.
Heather McComb. And
right. Yes.
She was cute, even though there was that inappropriate joke on Dwayne's Underworld about, oh, your daughter's pom-poms looking. It's like, ooh. Even back then, I thought, ooh, that's kind of nasty.
She's still developing.
Exactly. And the thing with this movie is it's sort of like watching old skits. Because it's like, at the time, oh, this is cutting edge. But now you're just like, wah, 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 with some of it. Like, like, I mean, and you remember the shows they're talking about, like
My Three Sons of Bitches,
which we never see any clips of,
no.
or Meet the Mansons. We don't really get to see.
Exercises was in all the trailers.
Yeah, 30-something to Life, Driving Over Miss Daisy, and
Max Hell.
Yeah, but
off.
I didn't understand why two of the big set pieces are a French Revolution spoof, and the other one I thought was weird was the Northern Overexposure one.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, why is Salt and Pepper in hell? That's racist.
Yeah, that's racist. And I mean, they saved the day, but like Salt and Pepper, because I guess they were on the soundtrack and they just got thrown a cameo, and they just so happened to have reaction figures that just came out. And I think it's in a 2-pack or a 3-pack. I don't know if there's a Spinderella figure, but you can buy it right now. Use my promo code AJ Epics. You can save 7% on anything you buy at Super 7. So go get your Salt and Pepper figures right now.
Yeah. The thing with that, I didn't notice this as a kid now, because when I was younger, I was like, oh, Salt and Pepper's in this movie, awesome. Now I'm just like, yeah, why are they on Hell TV? Why is this black intern taking over? What you trying to say here?
There's no living black people in this.
There are none. Shoot, even the Seidenbaums. Well, he gets a better ending than she did. Which I like how they can't say Godzilla. So Giant Mutant, it's like, somebody couldn't get a copyright through. But like I said, I enjoy this movie. It's still cute. It's something I would watch if I had kids and they're in like 13 years old and watch them, though they might be like, this is too slow. This is stupid. But I enjoy it. It's it gives John Ritter a chance to do physical comedy throughout and acknowledge his sitcom past. Pam Dauber, you don't really see her in much, even at the time. So it was nice to see her on the big screen, as the wife. I mean, she gets a bit of stuff to do, but I like the critics. I love the animated part, even though the cat, I thought the cat thing could have been a little bit better done, but it's a cartoon. What are you going to do? But like I said, it's an enjoyable. I don't really have anything bad to say about the film. I kind of, it would have been interesting in prime Dan Aykroyd form, like if this was around Dr. Detroit, if he had started.
Yeah.
Richard Dreyfuss, I don't know so much about the physical comedy for him, I can see definitely Tracy Ullman in this, though.
Ullman would have been good. I think Dreyfuss is just too grumpy.
Yeah, even back then, he would have been he would have been a whiner. Like, put him as Seidenbaum, Mr. Seidenbaum. That would have made more sense. He'd probably take that role today. But like David Tom as the son who figures everything out. I wonder if they made it today, who would play the Jeffrey Jones part? Because I'm glad there were no scenes with David Tom and Jeffrey Jones together. It would have been like, is this going to be a Bryan Singer situation? And
well, they were talking about a TV show for AMC a few years ago, and it still hasn't happened yet.
Of Stay Tuned? And
yeah, it would be a complete reboot, though.
See, I don't think it needs to be like a TV series. I could see if you wanted to remake the movie. I'd hope it'd be a little more inspired, but it'd be tough now that everything's streaming. So how do you update it? And
yeah, maybe it would have to be like a hell streaming platform.
And I would hope they'd give the wife a little bit more to do. And then, it's really all on John Ritter, which works in that final twist where it's like, oh, he's the only one who signed the contract, so she can stay forever. And I can do whatever I want to her. But to get him to come back, he's got to come back. That's what they use as the bait for him to come back. And
they give you a little bit of a glimpse of their life before everything goes down. And it's like he's a plumber salesman and she, she's like a health nut or some sort, works for like a health company. And they even take the idea that, like he had this dream of wanting to be a fencer, which then gets paid off later, but he just kind of like never made anything of his life. I think I would have wanted to see just a little bit more of that before we get straight into the action.
I guess they had maybe a running time where it's like, okay, we got to jump into this. We can't.
Well, yeah, I feel like they cut down a lot because they knew it wasn't going to do well.
Well, I just wonder, like, out of all the things, a fencing academy, though, that was just a weird, like, okay, I guess. I get because, that's what wins him, helps him to win in the end. But it was just like, it just felt like, okay, like an afterthought. Okay, and then he opens a fencing academy. And they're happily ever after. And he only watches 60 Minutes now. And they're talking about all these shows, but also there was no second in command that the intern automatically takes over everything. And
I guess wasn't the second in command supposed to be Eugene Levy before he got twisted up?
Yeah, and is Eugene Levy ever going to get back in the office again, or is he stuck like what's his name going through all these stupid movies? Yeah,
that's kind of left open ended too.
So it's just like, I know you're not supposed to think about this when you're watching this movie, but now you're like, wait, but what happened to that person? What happened to this person? And like, obviously we still remember the Seidenbaum, so they just go missing for all eternity.
I thought they both ended up dead.
Yeah, in the thing, but I'm saying in the real world, they just say they're missing.
Yeah, they're probably just like missing and sell their house, do an estate sale.
Yeah, I'm like, do they have children? I'm asking too many questions about these side characters. It's like, I need the realism in this movie. I think Peter Hyams proves himself to be a journeyman director because he has to deal with so much, like copying the style of so many shows and the practical.
Yeah, that took some talent. And I also like, CGI actually still holds up. I was actually a little surprised with that.
Well, I like their quick throwaway Star Trek scene that they had, where what's his name seems more terrified of being bald than anything. John Ritter, like out of all the things you've been through, I'm bald. No, that was his more concern of everything. Like I said, I just wish they could have boned up Pam Dauber so that she had more to do. Yeah. Other than just be a nag, kind of, and maybe save him a few times. But, she really had enough. And she was pregnant during making this movie.
That's right. Yeah, and they have to hide it.
And so many physical scenes. I mean, you could tell, like, in the first scene when she comes down in her robe that she's hiding something. And then when she's chained to, I guess, whatever, the wagon as the train's coming. Which I wonder, did they do that because she was pregnant at the time so she couldn't do as much action? Or was that always in the script?
Maybe they really had to reduce the role and make it more focused on Ritter.
Yeah, damn you, Mark Harmon. Bad timing. She finally gets something on the big screen and you get her pregnant.
He's irresistible. What can I tell you?
He's no Rob Lowe. So obviously you'd highly recommend this film.
I highly recommend it, and I wish there could have been a sequel where we could have seen what the Fresh Prince of Darkness would have looked like.
Was there ever talks of a sequel, or did it bomb outright?
No, they didn't even screen this for critics when it came out, so it just bombed.
Which is shocking because even if critics didn't like it, this seemed like a film that was made more for an audience to enjoy in the first place.
I think it was just one of those movies. I mean, besides whenever, in 92 it came out, it could have been a competitive week when it was released. But I would say maybe from a marketing standpoint, it's one of those movies that it feels like it's geared more towards kids than adults. And yet the humor does skew more like older teens to adults. And maybe it couldn't really say what audience it was aiming for because of that.
I could see that because I'm like, while we laugh at My Three Sons of Bitches, I can imagine being a parent of a young child and having to explain that to them. But like I said, I think it still holds up. I think a lot of jokes will go over some of the audience's head of this generation, but I think it's still worthwhile and worth watching, and it's not as bad as the fate that it got.
If you like hip hop, it's got a pretty good soundtrack with Salt and Pepper, Kool Moe Dee, and everybody from that time.
I don't know why they had to dress John Ritter as Prince from the Get Off.
Yeah, I would have made him MC Hammer.
Yeah, I guess.
Or Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, something more than you just look like you came from the beautician, type of outfit. But I guess it worked. And they could have taught him better dance moves. John Ritter's a physical comedian. I'm sure if you gave him a little bit of dance choreography, he would have gotten it. And
oh yeah, no, he was so physical. He could do anything.
So yeah, I guess, like I said, I give it a high recommendation. Also, I enjoy it. I think it's cute. It stands the test of time. I think it deserves a better, I guess, reputation than it gets.
It needs another look. I mean, besides the animated sequence being good, I think the rest of the movie still holds up. It's fun. And like I said, you don't get a lot of movies nowadays where you have to jump from one genre to another and have to create this visual style that's constantly evolving throughout.
Well, if you made it today, who would you cast? And
probably like a Bill Hader or Charlie Day, somebody that would be completely underestimated.
Okay, I could see that.
Not a leading man type.
Okay, and who would you put in the Pam Dawber role?
In the Pam Dawber part, again, I would want to cast an actress with some comedic timing. So maybe like a Catherine Hahn, or if you want to go a little bit younger, not Aubrey Plaza. Actually, I would have Aubrey Plaza play the Eugene Levy part.
Who would play the Jeffrey Jones role?
That I would get a pretty serious actor. Maybe not Danny Houston. There was somebody just... I was going to say Tom Wilkinson, but he's dead, so you can't get him. Yeah, it would be a British actor. That's all I know. Maybe Charles Dance.
Okay. I probably would have gotten David Caruso. And, I'd be like, I got the comeback role for you.
David Caruso could be the neighbor.
Seidenbaum?
He can be Seidenbaum, and he dies during the film noir scene.
See, but my thing is, I kind of like Murray Seidenbaum. David Caruso, you're going to root to die or get his comeuppance. So I'd be like, nah, we can't do that. I'd actually cast...
Maybe Rose Byrne for the wife.
Who?
Rose Byrne.
Okay, for some reason you're going to have to put Bobby Cannavale in the movie. Somewhere. It's like, wait, Rose is working? Where's my role?
Maybe he's Seidenbaum.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, well, I don't like. Well, whatever. You can put him in there. I'll accept it. I'll be like, okay, you get to be in this. And I just have a feeling if it was remade, they'd probably put like Melissa McCarthy in Pam Dawber's role, and switch the roles so that it would be the mother.
Okay, yeah. If you were to switch it, I could see that.
Yeah. So, Hey, she needs a new project. Sell her on this Stay Tuned remake.
Kristen Wiig is the wife.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, a lesbian Stay Tuned. And
for the Logo channel.
Is that still around? And
I think. Oh no, they gave it a new name now. I forget, Inspire or whatever it's called. It's got Married with Children repeats all the time.
Okay. I don't. Oh, Amanda Bierce. Kind of like, why is that show on?
In Facts of Life.
Joe was not a lesbian.
You don't know what went on with those girls. Anything could have happened.
Republican Nancy McKeon will be the first one to tell you Joe was not a lesbian.
Wait, Nancy McKeon's a Republican? Oh, what the fuck?
You didn't know that Nancy McKeon's a Republican?
She's a Trump supporter? Oh, my God. She's so cool. I don't know she supports
Trump, but I know she's a Republican. A lifelong Republican. I think that might have been why her and Michael J. Fox broke up back in the day.
Yeah, Michael dodged a bullet big time.
She's still cute. But political wise, it would have been, I don't think it would have been a marriage made in heaven.
Maybe it's a consensus. Maybe she's a Nikki Haley supporter.
That's not any better, really.
I know it's better, but Nikki Haley's not going to destroy the country, I think.
No, she just signs Israeli bombs. That's a bomb on children.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, before the show gets too political. Damn you, Nancy McKeon.
I like doing strange voices.
So this ends this episode of Unfinished Business Television Deep Dive. Until next time, we bid you adieu.